So the magic of the heart is that it is a field of one, a field of one heart, a field of one shared heart. We can call this a field of presence. We can call it a field of grace, a field of love, a field of God, a field of glory. So many words we can use for the same one, and yet the words do have nuance in the transmission, but essentially all nuance is pointing to the one. And that one is what our hearts are longing for. Our hearts that seem to be separate, divided, protected, contracted, broken, are naturally and unquestionably one in the one heart. That we belong fully, completely to the one. The field of heart is a field of flow. And where we enter the field of flow is in the knowing of the heart, in the flow and consciousness of the heart's knowing, what the heart already knows, what we already know to be true about ourselves. And that ultimately in the lived experience, we're constantly having glimpses of recognition. We're constantly in that knowing, and yet we have been habituated to prioritize not being in that knowing and being in a limited connection to mind story. And yet the heart is longing for the fullness. The heart is longing to be in its absolute unquestionable oneness. The heart is longing to know love, longing to be received in love, longing to give love and for it to be received fearlessly, to feel a safety in love. That sense of that there is safety in love is, of course, our deep connection to heart and true, unconditional, perfect love. So in the flow of heart, the flow of the divine field of light transmission, the flow is a flow of generosity. It's a flow of giving and receiving, always. But it's a flow of giving without condition. And it's about receiving also without condition. It's an unconditional flow of life. So when we speak about saying yes to the heart's longing, when we speak about saying yes to God and glory, to love, to freedom, to truth, to the divine, to peace, we're speaking about like an unconditional giving of ourselves, an unconditional giving. And the magic is that in that unconditional giving, an unconditional receiving happens that is so far beyond our limited way of measuring, that as we give ourselves, as we say yes, just in that yes, we are opening to the true intuitive flow. The true intuitive flow is what the heart already knows, and it's the natural communication. True intuition is a flow of openness, a flow of giving and receiving, a natural flow that isn't measuring, isn't blocking, isn't held back, has never heard of lack, deficiency or scarcity, that is just boundless in its offering and therefore boundless in its receiving. And this is the flow. This flow is the key to everything in this life, because it's our It's our key to being able to receive the love that we are longing for. It's our key to being able to receive the grace and the wisdom light, the recognizing. And so we're asked to give by saying yes to what we are longing for, and then we receive. But the thing is that the glory isn't waiting for us to give ourselves in order to receive. We're constantly being given. We're constantly being invited to receive. So there isn't a condition that says, you give yourself to me and I will give you everything. In a way, the natural flow says, receive everything. Receive everything. Receive the love that is without condition. Receive the grace and the flow of being held, of guidance, of the wisdom light that is already on. You are wired as a child of God. Receive it. Receive it all. And then see what happens in the flow of giving yourself to life, giving yourself to what you are longing for, right? There's something incredible in this flow, and it's such a key to know that there's no condition on our freedom. There's no condition on love. There's no lack. There's no scarcity. Nothing is being held back. That we are creating through our mind's protection the idea of lack and scarcity, or lack of love, a disconnect from God and glory. And within the context of the play of life, it's understandable why we would have protections, why we have ideas and concepts and limiting beliefs and needs met structures that hold us back. And yet all the while, and always has been, the heart's knowing of what is true has always been here. The presence of God and glory, the presence of love in its truest, most perfect, compassionate, formless presence has always been here. It has always been true. It has always been real. And yet we have learned to identify with the stories of the mind and the limited concepts, ideas, and beliefs. We've just learned to identify. But it's not the reality. It's not the truth. And the heart knows this, right? The wisdom of the heart knows this, knows that this is not the fullness of what I am. And so we can have this longing, and we can be looking for the fulfillment of this longing. And we start looking in the external because we're conditioned, and we have learned to move in these limited ways. We also have learned, as part of that belief system, that the truth is in the external, and that it's like we're holding kind of needs met structures, we're holding protections, and we're looking in the external, while our heart all the while is wise and is wired with the blueprint of the child of God and the living reality and presence is right here within us. It's always here. And so that's why we have a sense of a kind of knowing, of a longing of what we are looking for. And yet just the way that we've learned to prioritize engagement with the world and the mind, it means that we've learned to look outside of us. Now, us being here, and the readiness and the maturity is that there's already a knowing that the answer is not in the external, right? We know deeper than that already. We know. And yet the habit to identify in ways with the external, because there are protections in place, there are holding patterns in place, have us keep moving, because there's unconscious and pre-verbal and, let's say, multi-dimensional and multi-lifetime holding patterns in the consciousness that we don't have access to, and we can't get access through the realms of the mind. We can't access the unhooking, the unwinding through any kind of mental processing or psychological processing. That when we come to a certain maturity, the only way that we can continue to evolve is in consciousness itself, right? That everything in the play of life carries us to a certain point, and it's valuable and it's amazing, and we are connecting to presence, and we are connecting to wisdom, and we are connecting to the field of transmission and truth. And yet at a certain point, the invitation to enter into our own landscape of consciousness in a deeper way is in a way the magic and alchemy that can bring us to wholeness. Because the magic and alchemy that can bring us to wholeness is to recognize that we need access to the light, we need access to love, to perfect love, in order to be a field of true safety and holding that will allow the unconscious to come forward. We also recognize in this maturity that what is discordant, seemingly dysfunctional, resistant, stressed, wound up within our field and within our life are all just pointers to unconscious habits and conditionings that are just still in place, protections, projections, all of these things that are still in place. And we can be trying to work with these in a fix it, change it kind of way with such great intention. But these deep patterns won't actually give themselves up unless there is a field of divine holding. And so we can rest in the presence of divine holding, but the alchemy actually has to happen through our own nervous system. It's like we have to be awake and present for that to happen. We have to be an active participant in that, right? What do we mean by that? We mean we have to be conscious. We have to be consciously awake and aware of, and it's not on the level of processing or knowing, but it is on the level of consciousness, being conscious of itself and recognizing that we have access to the openness of the field. We have access to the frequency where light transmission and alchemy takes place. And in the presence of this connection, in the presence of us resting, the grace of the intelligence that reconfigures the field, reconfigures our field, our consciousness, realigns the patterning, recalibrates, brings the unconscious into the light of consciousness. It naturally happens. The other piece that's important here is that we find that it's not about just looking for the light and opening to the light. It's the discovery that, lo and behold, life itself is the way. And life itself is where let's say, the light and the love that we are looking for is hiding. And it's hiding right in the center of the discordance and the dysfunction and the seeming corruption and disease and dissatisfaction and stress. That the light is hiding actually right in the center of everything that feels to be hard and resistant, not working, challenging, lacking, deficient, doubtful, shameful, guilty, right? So it's not so much about pushing away and rejecting the things that don't feel to be spiritual, we could say, or aligned with the direction that I'm trying to open to. It's about opening to the light, the vastness, the infinite unbounded, to the stillness, to the silence, to the beauty, to God and glory, and to unconditional love. But as we open to this true nature and this field of transmission, we're opening as a means to embody and to bring that light through our nervous system into our field of consciousness. And our field of consciousness is what creates the appearance of our life. So we are creating the appearance of life out of our consciousness. So when we open to the landscape of our consciousness and the evolution, transmutation, transformation of our consciousness, the appearance of our life shifts, because the repatterning of consciousness that's constantly attempting to repattern itself back to the original template of the child of God. Everything is attempting to recalibrate and reorganize itself back to the original divine blueprint, we could say, the pure consciousness, the I am presence, the love that is perfect, spotless, and whole, right? So what we can feel in our life, in our lived experience, is the magnetic pull and calling of this. It's what brings the sense of seeking in. It's what the longing of our heart is that the glory is calling us. Like the divine parent, the divine mother, father is calling the divine child back into the divine fold, let's say, calling us back into the true purity and innocence of what we are, right? So just resting here and pausing for a moment and just receiving what is happening as these words come. What are you noticing? Take a moment just to be with yourself here. As you be with yourself here, you rest. There's a resting, a deeper resting, and a natural recalibration starting to happen, where the intelligence that you are made of, the light that you are made of, is coming more online. It's recognizing at the frequency level and enlivening the intelligence of what is already known. You might notice how what you're noticing connects with your intention or your heart sankalpa in some way. Because when we express intention, when we express into life from the heart, from our deepest connection from the field of presence, it's like we breathe life into life. In our expression, we're calling it forward. We're calling the intelligence to come online. We're saying yes to the intelligence of our consciousness. We're saying yes to the flow of life. So this field of silent presence, a field of resting. When we speak about resting, we're inviting a relaxation and a softening into just being here. Just being here in the stillness, in the silence, in the presence of being, the field of presence that is an awake, aware field of light. The light is the light of consciousness, the light of awareness that is always on, shining radiantly. And there is a luminous knowing as we rest. There's nothing to do, nothing to understand. In a way, just to be here and say yes to your own heart, to the longing of your heart, to the call of your heart, to recognize that the call of your heart is the call of the heart, calling your heart into the remembrance of being one with the heart. And every time that you recognize a truth, a seeing, it's like you're aligning, you're recognizing, and that recognition is the intelligence of consciousness, like the wires joining, sparking, the consciousness sparking, where the knowing knows that is beyond the mind, where the knowing that knows is a wisdom, an intelligence that is far greater than the mind. It's a recognizing of a truth that can only be known as a frequency of recognition. So every time something lands, every time there's a divine inner smile of, oh yeah, ah, yeah. That's the intelligence that you are made of, coming online and recognizing itself, opening to itself, bringing forward a greater capacity of consciousness to know itself. And where the knowing happens is right here in the stillness, in the silence, in the deep silent depths of being. And we really come to this deep silent being when there's just a resting here with everything that is here as it is. That we're not trying to create a mood of silence. We're in such an open allowing where the mind thoughts that come and go are allowed to be here. The body and any feelings, sensations, tensions, pains, aches, it's all allowed to be here. Nothing can take away from this presence, this silent presence. And as we allow through awareness everything to be here, just by being aware of the thoughts that come and go, being aware of what is moving and changing, being aware of sense perception, and a natural including it all through openness, just being aware and watching. Nothing is left out. Everything is allowed. And it's through this that we come to a deeper resting. We rest deeper. As we rest deeper, the intelligence of life, the intelligence of the divine can be received more deeply. And in that receiving, there's a natural flow of knowing that gives more fully to the divine, without even knowing what is the divine, right? What actually is that? And then that incredible, potent curiosity of this constant offering and receiving, offering and receiving. Because as we enter the field of presence, the being, where the being knows itself, the beingness, just being, like a simple intimacy with our own self, with our own heart, we enter into this sense of the heart's knowing. The heart knows itself. The heart knows itself. And where the heart knows, where the being just is, there's a deep stillness, a deep silence, a field of presence. And yet the knowing that's here is a flow of intelligence, a flow of active intelligence that is dynamically flowing within itself in the knowing of itself, recognizing itself. And so then the feeling, sensing field brings a sense of the presence deepening, of being the presence, of being one with the presence, as we open to the sense of being the presence field. It's like all the things that we have heard and that we hear, and even that we're hearing now, we start receiving it more at the transmission frequency level than the attempting to understand or conceptual level where the intellect is involved. When we start to really receive at the level and frequency resonance of intelligence, it's a quality of knowing that is beyond the mind. It's a quality of knowing that is so intimate and present and here now. And here we enter the timeless presence, the now. And we recognize that this knowing is always here now. Yeah. And so to enter the field of the heart's knowing is to enter the field of intuitive knowing, where we're not using the mind to make decisions, but the intuitive knowing is a flow of life. It's a flow of intelligence that's constantly giving and receiving itself. And that flow, because it doesn't have any conditions upon itself, it flows naturally within itself. And we start to feel more free, more open, more natural. So the intelligence, the consciousness itself is knowing itself here. And this is what brings online a sense of kind of unquestionable knowing, a recognition that the I am presence is this field of presence. This I am presence is this sense of being here. The I am presence is a field of one presence, one heart. And in this field of one, we find the presence of love, the presence of God, of the glory, of the light. And as we receive, a frequency of true safety, a kind of holding, there's a deeper resting and a deeper relaxation, like a multi-dimensional resting And what we're really inviting is a resting of the being in itself, like a soul resting, the being itself resting in its own beingness. And as the being rests in its own beingness, we open to this field of knowing. And in this field of knowing, there's a sense of the presence of light, of the glory of God, of the divine, of wholeness. And we don't want to be distracted by words, but just the words come as an invitation to notice just what is being noticed in your direct experience. We could say connecting to source, connecting to the field of pure awareness, connecting to a field of love, of light transmission, a field of blessing, of grace, a field where there's a greater intelligence, a field that is unified and whole in its oneness, where everything belongs equally. And just in the resting here, just giving yourself to yourself, right? Gifting yourself to yourself, gifting your heart to the heart, gifting all that you know yourself to be, and all of the sense of quirkiness and limitation and flaw and resistance and all of that stuff, the protections, giving all of that, right? Giving all that you are to this moment, and just feeling how received you are, how held you are. Because what is receiving you and what is holding you is your own wholeness. It's the one heart that can hold it all, that can bear it all, that can receive it all, and just keeps giving from the overflowing wellspring of love that is eternal, infinite, and boundless. It's the eternal wellspring of God's love, of the perfect, spotless love, the love that is truly without condition and bounds, that just continues to overflow and give and give and give. And in the resting, it's like a field of infusion where you can just receive and be nourished. You're not being asked to give anything. You're actually being asked to receive. Receive it all. Receive it all. Receive the fullness of love. Receive the fullness of yourself. Receive the fullness of life. Sip it in. Gulp it down. Whatever. There's enough. There's more than enough. There's an endless flow. And you can drink deep and quench your thirst and be nourished and drink some more and be quenched and receive some more, right? You can drink in the light codes and transmission of the intelligence that reconfigures and rewires you. You can say yes. And you within your own intelligent heart knows the feeling of true safety. And so there's like a dance of rebalancing happening in your own heart, in your own field of consciousness, where as you receive, you give more of yourself, you offer more of yourself. As you receive more of the blessing, you're finding a balance of true safety within your own heart, receiving yourself, receiving yourself. Just resting here, just resting here. Remember the stillness, the silence, the wide open presence of this field of light. Remember the grace and the glory and the blessings that are flowing here with such generosity and freedom. Remember the stillness and simplicity of just being yourself. A deep relaxation into yourself. Remember at the level of frequency and resonance, a deeper truth that is ancient, primordial, timeless. Receiving the whispers of frequency, of recognizing the fullness and the beauty and the glory of yourself. Before you believed you were limited, before you believed you were not enough, broken, before you believed you did something wrong, before fear set in, before unworthiness took hold, before a sense of lack and deficiency came in and you settled into a sense of divided living with shame and guilt and doubt at the helm. Remember who you have always been before you believed that there was something wrong with you. In the presence of being the fullness, in the presence of love, in the presence of the one heart, this incredible invitation to rebalance in the patterning and organization of consciousness. That if feelings come forward, it's a releasing and reorganization happening. Everything that has taken a shape starts to remember it's shapeless, formless, starts to flow within the flow, starts to receive the nourishment, and the nourishment brings a sense of a true safety, where the protections can drop, and as the protections drop, a deeper opening into the fullness. And just resting, just resting, just resting here. Like a deep, deep, resonant exhalation, relaxation into the stillness, into the silence, into the field of presence being. Into the one heart and the knowing of the heart, opening to the true intuitive knowing. The true intuitive knowing knows itself, knows just this. There's nothing else to know but this. This felt sense of just being, just this. Nothing else to know, nothing to understand. Just this freedom, just this truth, just this beauty, just this love without bounds or limitation. Just this moment, here now. Receiving this moment, giving to this moment, receiving this moment, and just giving, offering this moment up to the all that is. and receiving this moment. An all-inclusive, all-encompassing receiving, and an all-encompassing, all-inclusive offering. An all-encompassing saying yes to the longing of your heart. To allow your thirst to be quenched, to be so deeply nourished, where you can drink from the wellspring that is pure abundance, pure life, pure flow, pure generous giving. That your giving is to receive. You give by receiving. You give by receiving. You give by receiving. The generosity of life, the generosity of this moment, right? That when we actually drop into the fullness of this moment in rest, we can receive the generosity. Sometimes we can feel that life is not generous or kind because we're trying to draw something out of limitation and contraction, of something that is divided and doesn't feel like it has enough to share, right? But when we drop into this moment, we drop into the field of divine abundant flow where there's enough, a unified field. And when we open our heart to the vastness of the one heart, we include everything, and suddenly all resources are ours. Wow, what a playground, right? There is no limitation, there is no lack. Anything and everything is possible here, beloved. Just to feel the touching into the infinite possibility of your own fullness, your own wholeness, the great capacity that you are in your belonging to God, in your great capacity as a child of God and glory, a child of the divine, a child of innocence, right? You belong to innocence, beloved. You belong to innocence. You belong to love.